Hello again. We've talked about arrays, and now I want to talk about another kind of data structure, another kind of way of organizing your data. What I'm talking about are strings. Actually, C++ has two kinds of strings. It has a kind of string that it inherited from the language C. It's an extension of the language C. And it has its own special kind. I'm going to talk more about the special kind. C++ has a class called string. Now, we're going to be talking about classes very shortly after I get over this material that is actually how C++ does some of the things you already know. Some of you may have even touched classes when you did the Python, but we'll presume you're all starting from scratch on it. What this means is that we access it by using $include string. I think I've actually used that in some of the programs that I've shown you. And it has a lot of good things in it. That's why I want to use this one rather than the other one. So a string is, or I should say, can be viewed as an array of char. In fact, that's how it was defined in C. Now, we can use the bracket notation to get individual elements, individual characters in the string. So that's one way we can work with it. But we have a lot of other possibilities too. But let me first do a little example with this, and we'll see what we can do. Here's what I'm going to do. My problem is going to be the following. I want to input a string of characters, a string, let's just say that. And I want to count the number of times the letter E or cap E appears in the string. Now, this is pretty simple. It's E is the most frequent letter that appears in the English language. And if you were trying to break some codes, some secret codes, you might want to look at the frequency of the letters in the encoded message. Now, we're going to work on this. I'm not sure I have to do much in the algorithm. It's going to be walking down the array one by one. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to go from the beginning to the end of the array. And that's all I'm going to do. So let's go. Visual Studio. And I'll call this Find Ease. Next. Find the E's. So let's see what we should have it look like. I'm going to $include, as I promised, string. I am going to have the using namespace standard. And now I'm going to come down here and I'm going to start my work. Since I'm working with strings, I can use the new data type string. A class defines a data type. It has what is called a constructor in it. And that constructor is the name of the class, and it allows me to create a string. So I'll call it string inval, just to have a name for it. And the first thing I have to do is get that string. So I'm going to cout input a string. And I'm going to move to a new line, give the person plenty of room to input it. And now, here comes the problem. If I use cin, the system is set to read only to the first space on the line. It does not go past the first space. So I'll put a note here. Cin would read all the characters from the start of the line until the first space. That's the way it was set up to do it. I do not know why they set it up that way, but that's the way they did it. It probably has to do with making it compatible with reading other items, because most things are separated by spaces. We've already used the trick to take care of this, the get line. Get line is, let me just put it back here, reading a string. So first, cin reads only to the first space only. Well, the same thing works if you're reading from a file. Get line a stream name, and I'll put that in, and a string name reads from the file or from cin into the string, the variable string name. It reads one line. Now, examples of that. We could have as an example, get line cin inval. Cin is a stream. It's an input stream. So it reads from that. However, we could also have get line file, let's say, val file. Let's call it that. Let's call it vals. Nah, let's give it a different name. File data. And put it into inval. And this reads a line from the file, I should say from the if stream, which remember is a file, not guile, file data. So you've done that, but just to make clear what's going on there. So let's go to it. I'm going to read get line from CN, and I'm going to put it into inval. You will notice that it is a void function. It does not return anything. It changes, it puts a value into inval. And it doesn't need to have the ampersand for inval, because inval is an array, and arrays are automatically passed by reference, not by value. So now we're ready to go at it. I'll try an old-fashioned way, and maybe we'll try another way or two. So here's one way to do it. For int position equals 0, position less than, now I want to know how long it is, inval dot. Dot should mean it's a class. We're now going to look at a function in that class. I'm going to start it with length, and look what I get. Length. So that's how long it is. And remember, we go from 0 to 1 less than the length. We always start at 0. And then we just say pos plus plus. Now, since I'm counting, I have to have a counter. So I'm going to have count EE, and I'm going to start it off at 0. And then what am I going to do in here? If the position inside inval equals excuse me, E, or the position in inval pos equal cap E, then add 1 to the count. In the if statement, in the for statement, and print out the answer. See how we found count EE E's in the input. And we just need the return 0. And we need to end the program. So let's see if that worked. Okay, now is the time for all of us and everyone to come to the aid of their party. So let's see what we have. I count 1, 2. And I didn't kind of type 4, right? So I got another one there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We found 9 E's in the input. So it works. There isn't much trouble with it. So I'll copy this program for you so you can see what it looks like. And we'll put that over here. Now that was Well, that one wasn't very general, as I would say. It didn't do, didn't do an awful lot. There's also maybe another way to do it. So let's try something else. I'm going to try another approach. I'm going to go over here, and I can't remember. I may have this wrong, but I'm going to try it. I'm going to get rid of this part right here. So I'm going to block that one out. And instead, I'm going to try a different approach. The approach I'm going to try is the following. For auto pause in inval if pause equals E or pause equal cap E, then simply count EE++. This is the new for loop. That is the so-called Python-like for loop. C++ is trying to make people in Python feel comfortable in C++. So it's adopting some of the Python notation. The auto just says, whatever value you're getting in inval, that's the one you use. I could have put a char there, I didn't feel like it. Auto is more general in a sense. So let's see if this works. So every good deed is rewarded. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 E's in it. So there's another approach to it. You may find that you like that better. I've done the old one so many times that I have to think about doing this one. But it is a possibility. And I do want you to see it, so you'll know that it's there. Alternative using Python-like for. And the Python-like for is written in the following way. It is alternative. I certainly didn't spell that right. See, the machine won't tell me what I should have. Alternative. I think that takes care of it. The form is for parentheses type a var and then colon and then an array or a string, maybe even some other things later. And then whatever. Now, type can be auto, which says pick whatever is right, which means pick the type of thing, type of var in the array or string. So it was char in our case. Inside the braces, var takes on the values, array or string, let's call it array or string X, takes on the values X0, X1, all the way up to whatever the last element in X. So it's exactly the same as the one I wrote before. It's just another way to do it that you might find more interesting. So that's the first thing. But you know, that's not a very big, that doesn't do much. It just finds the E's. What if I'd like to find more than that? I'd like to really find all of them. I'd like to find all the A's, B's, C's, D's, E's, whatever. Well, let's see now. I know that things are stored in ASCII. So here's my new problem. Input a string, and print the number of A's, B's, C's, etc. up to the Z's, and then the A's, the B's, etc. up to the Z's. So can I do that? Let's see, how would I do that? Well, I have a program to pick one out. It looks to me like I need a loop. Seems like we could loop the last problem. Seems okay to me. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. We'll just have to try it. So let's go back to here. Now, we don't want to say count E anymore. We could do this 2 or 3 different ways. We could have it create a table and just use count each time. We could have a count be an array. I think I'll just put count there. And now, I think I'll go back to this one. And get rid of this. And I think that was in the for loop. So that's there. And this is the entire item. Now this is something you are having troubles doing with homeworks, from what I can tell. There is the code to do it for one thing. For one value, that's the code. I want to do it for more than one value. So it seems to me I should put a loop around it. That seems like the reasonable way to do it. Why not? So, I'm going to play a little game here. I'm going to put in a string. And my string is going to be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. I hope I didn't miss any. I got the whole alphabet both ways, upper and lower case. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I want to do it for every one of those. Oh, didn't I just have a loop that does something for every place within a string? What if I tried, I can try either the for loop or the Python for loop, I don't care which. But what if I were to say for let, this might not work as easily as I want. I'll do it this way. For int let equal 0, let less than the length of, oh, I didn't give the string a name. That's stupid. Alpha equal, I had to give it a name. Alpha dot length, and then let plus plus. And now what I'm going to do is say, go through the whole string, and if that equals alpha let, then add to the count. Now, once we add to the count, I'm going to print out, we found count instances of alpha let. That didn't work. Alpha let in the string. I don't think I'm even going to do that. I'm just going to leave that alone. I'm going to put an indel there. And since I like to line things up, I think I'm going to bring in IO manip. And I'm going to have set W. It's not going to go above 3. And I got count there. Okay. Now, that's what I have. Now I'm going to enclose it all in the loop. So I'm saying basically, go through the alphabet. For each one of them, look inside the string in val and find out how many times that particular letter occurs. When you get that, put it to 0. But I've left out a vital little step that is very easy for many of us to leave out. I never reinitialize count. I have to start count over for each possible letter. So I put count equals 0. That's the reason I dropped the count equals 0 at line 15. Because I knew I had to do it for every one of them, so it was wasted up there. Now we got a chance it works. Let's see. All right. All right. This is the start of a wonderful relationship Ricky. I think I got enough there so that we can see what's happening. So let's see what it did for me. I better pull this up a little bit. All right, it said there's one capital R. It says there's one capital T. None of the other capitals had anything in it. So now, for A, it says there are 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. It says that there's 1 C, Ricky. It says there's 1 D, the D is there. It says there's 3 E's. I think I counted those already. So you can see that we've done it for every one of the possibilities. It's a much better problem. It gets us all the possible ways, all the possible ones. So this is, again, another problem that you can see. Try it. I'm going to copy it. And what I really want you to see is how I developed it. I took the problem I already had and simply put the heart of it in another loop. That was the only way I could do it. It worked right. Now that's the way you can work as a computer scientist. You know how to do something, so you use that particular code to do something else. Now, so far, we haven't really touched any of the real unusual things in there that we could have done. So I'm going to try another problem. My next problem is going to be input a string, remove all spaces, all punctuation, and all vowels. There are languages, as I've been told, in biblical Hebrew, we often have texts with no vowels in them. That they're assumed. So that's what I want to do. Now, it looks to me like what I'm going to do, my plan, is to erase these characters one by one from the string, which means I have to find them to erase them. So if I'm going to erase them, I have to find them. Now, there are complicated ways to do it, but because we have the string class, we have a lot of help. And I'm going back to here, and I'm going to give you this site to look at. This particular site, it has some things that you don't really know about yet, but it will give you some of the things to make it easier for you to work with strings. So let's look at the site. What the site has, the parts I think you really ought to know about, are down in this area, and there's another one I haven't seen yet, fine. Oh, down here, the fines. Notice that there's a fine something in a string. The fine first of something in a string. And there's also an erase that erases characters from the string. Now, if you want to know how any of these work, you click on it. It tells you how it works, and then it gives you an example of it working. So this is a site where you can pick these things up easily. So I'm going to try my luck at writing this. So let's save this little problem. File, close. And I'm going to go down here. Now, incidentally, doing something like this would possibly be something you do when you were encoding a message. You want to get rid of things that shouldn't be there. So we'll say deval, etc. Didn't put the etc. in. So I will have # include string, and that will be using namespace standard. And now I'm going to go down here. I'm going to declare a string, inval again. And now I want to get rid of every item in there. So what I'm going to say is, let's go find an item in there. Find returns a number. It tells us